And Women in Sport is a charity. We were founded nearly 40 years ago, so we're coming up to our 40th birthday next year. And as a charity, it's our vision that no woman or girl is excluded from the joy, fulfillment, and lifelong benefits of sport. So we recognise that gender stereotyping and institutional bias are really holding women and girls back in sport and also in life.
Now, the Lionesses are currently playing in Australia. Have you been following it?
Absolutely, I've been following it, and it's just been a joy to watch, hasn't it? I know they had a shaky start, and especially with losing Keira Walsh as well, it was a blow, but they absolutely found their rhythm in that game against China with a 6-1 win. It was just amazing to watch. And yeah, we saw such incredible performances by Lauren James and Chloe Kelly and Millie Bright, Mary Earps as well, just to name a few of the amazing players they've got in that side. But we've got to mention as well that the tactical genius of Serena Wiegmann, who completely understands her players, and by making just a few small changes, she really gave them the space and the freedom to play to their absolute potential.
Now, tell me a little bit about the Euros. I believe that the Euros had a little bit of an influence on the number of girls that are wanting to play and be in sport and be the top of their game.
Absolutely. It's so important that we see these visible role models at the top of sport for all women and girls. And we saw last year with the Euros and that incredible performance and win from the Lionesses, that inspired more girls to dream of reaching the top in sport, which is amazing. And we ran a survey at Women in Sport, and we found that 70% of girls who really love sport now do want to emulate their heroes on the pitch, and they dream at long last of being able to do so. We ran the same survey in 2020, just after the last World Cup, and we found that at that point, 50% of sporty girls dreamt of reaching the top in sport. And progress is definitely being made. We can see that. So it's absolutely brilliant. And we know that by having visible role models at the top of sport, it can really have a huge influence on girls.
Why is there such a gap? Is it the lack of media representation? Is it the lack of funding? Like, what are the influencing factors?
Well, we know girls start out at a disadvantage. So from the moment that girls are born, they're surrounded by gender stereotyping that really discourages them, that society doesn't value women's sport. They're told not to take risks. They're told not to get dirty. They're told to stay away from mud. And so all of these influences and the messages that girls are hearing at a very young age are at odds with sport. And we also know that, for example, 30% of parents think sport is really important for their daughters. But when you compare that to their sons, 41% of parents think it's important for their sons. So we're seeing a real mismatch at a very young age. And then when girls get to teenage years, when they go into secondary school, we're seeing 1.3 million girls are dropping out of sport. And that's to do with their change in body image, they're hitting puberty, they're starting their periods. And we see a huge amount of fear of judgment from girls. So we're seeing a disengagement as they go through their teenage years. But, you know, that's combined as well with a lack of opportunity for girls.
Role models like Beth England, Keira Walsh, Lucy Bronze, all these lionesses, amazing women, is really important. Having them talk about topics such as through what girls are growing up, work and periods and anything really, is important as well for girls' development into sport.
Role models, and especially in sport for girls, are vital. We know that, having them being not only visible, but talking about really relatable topics for girls. So talking about body image, talking about periods and puberty and how they manage those on an elite stage is so important, because it normalizes these issues, and these issues that have been sidelined and not talked about for so long. So for girls being able to see that and see it so visibly and see it being so normal in society shows girls that they do belong in sport.
And finally, I just wanted to ask about, obviously there is a gender pay gap when it comes to sport. Is that a deterring factor for most girls as well?
Absolutely, and we know that, don't we, from the World Cup? We know that so many international football federations are not paying their female athletes the same as they pay their male athletes, and it's fundamentally wrong. And again, it's showing girls that they don't belong, that they're less valued in sport than their male counterparts. So that needs to change, absolutely. And, you know, when we put it in the context of the history of sport, for so long, women have been excluded from sport. We saw that 50-year FA ban, and men have been running sport for decades. So what we need to see now is 50-50 male to female leadership at the top of sport. And I think once we see that, we'll see very many of these issues resolved.